I help people rediscover their play because I really believe like their inner child is where the answers actually lie.
Okay, hello everyone. This is Jeff Terry with Rediscover Your Play. I help people tap back into their inner child to solve their own problems because I feel like if you play enough, you'll figure out all your answers. And today we have Errol Thompson. Can you introduce yourself, Errol?
My name is Errol Thompson. I am the, I'll say it, head writer for the Kingdom Strong blog. And basically it's a blog that talks about how we can apply our faith to our everyday lives. And that's basically what we do.
Sweet. And then what's the topic we're talking about today, Errol?
So today we're going to be talking about being coachable, kind of exploring the minutia of what being coachable means from a coach's perspective, and also from people who might be looking for coaching. What are some questions that they might be asking themselves? Do I need a coach? If I need a coach, why do I need one? And talk about what that relationship is going to look like as you are coaching or as you are being coached. And so we just want to kind of explore just some preliminary questions because I'm pretty sure that, there's a lot of people out there now who are feeling like they need to do something more in their lives. They need some kind of help. They don't know what to look for. They feel like, I don't need therapy, but I need something, and I don't know. So I'm hoping that coaching would be kind of one of those avenues that people would decide to enter into, or being coached, if you will. It's the same thing as being, someone being able to be teachable, if you will. So it's kind of just asking some of those questions like that.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
So one of the first things I looked into, especially concerning coaching, was what are some of the issues that people face in deciding to being coached. And one of the things that I learned is that you have to invite coaching into your life. Like it's something that you intentionally and willfully have to do. So my first question is, what would be some of the barriers to people inviting coaching into their lives, kind of inviting, a teacher into their lives to kind of, address some of their issues?
Well, yeah, I'll answer it in two parts. The first part, I think, is like, first we got to define what do we mean by coach, right?
Okay.
Because it's like, people throw that word around a lot.
Okay.
And when, I might interpret it different from you, but when I think of a coach, I kind of think of a person almost like they play a few different roles. They're a guide. So they're a guide in the sense of they're introducing you to a world that you might not be as familiar with. Like a business coach kind of navigates you through all of like the rigmarole of like how to start a business, what do you do with your quarterly taxes? How do you do outreach, all this stuff. So they're kind of navigating you and guiding you through almost like a tour guide through this new world that you're like, I don't know what this is. Second, I feel like a coach is definitely the cheerleader. They're the person that when you are doubting yourself, because they've been in that world for so long, they can provide context and be like, you're not that far behind. You're not that, you think you like don't have a lot of experience, but actually a lot of your experience that you did in this part of your job or your working world, or your background, you can now apply in this part. So definitely a guide, a cheerleader, and then I guess the last part would be the accountability piece, because I think that's the biggest part. Is like I hired a nutrition coach at one point and someone to help me work out, simply because I knew that when I was paying somebody else to do it, then I was more likely to do it, you know, because then I was like, I got to tell my nutrition coach, not only have to tell I have to take photos of my food and upload it to this site so that she sees what I eat every single day for 3 meals of the day. And just knowing that made me more aware of like, what am I going to eat? And then knowing that like my workout coach, I had to be at the gym at like 5 a.m. And if I didn't, then I know I was going to get a text from her being like, where are you? You know, like, what are you doing?
Okay.
So that's the defining part. And then I think to answer your part of like, when do you know? I think you know you need a coach when you know you're not making progress and you keep doing the same stuff over and over again.
Oh, so you kind of like when you plateau.
Yeah, and you've read the books, you've watched the webinars or downloaded the podcast and watched the TED Talks, and you've done all those things. For someone just having that mental block, and you just can't, you can't get over it.
That's true. That makes sense. I know, I think one of the things that, one of the follow-up questions was going to be, you know, recognizing when you do plateau. You know, what is it that do you feel that you kind of tapered off, and do you want to get better? Do you like because a lot of people plateau and they're like, yeah, I got it, I'm good. But I know that there are people who want to take that next step to explore. Hey, am I really is it really as good as it gonna get in my life, in my profession, in my marriage, in my whatever, you know, can it get better? You know, and you know, will it be good for me to get another set of eyes, another set of ears, you know, on whatever this area is in my life to kind of take me, you know, to that next, you know, peak, you know, mountain peak in my life from the plateau.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I know it's important.
It's interesting. The people that I've coached, they usually don't come when they're like, I'm good and just wanting to get better. Usually people come to you when it's just like, I'm desperate.
Really?
You know, which is
not
as, you know, as, I mean, people are where they're at, right? But it's kind of like when you go to a doctor and you already know the issue, like you're already sick, you know, you're already like, and ideally what you want is you want to be able to be constantly pushing yourself. Like, I've been watching The Last Dance because I love MJ, you know. And
MJ's in the building.
Got to put out the MJ. And he hired this like nutritional workout coach who, you know, and this was early on when he was already peaking. And he was just like, I need someone to challenge me in a way that I didn't think was possible.
Exactly.
So you should you should only, in my opinion, only be looking outwardly when you really feel like you've explored as much as you can internally. Because when I've coached or been trained on coaching, my philosophy around it is that you already really have the answers. I'm just there to kind of help you dive in and pull them out yourself. Because eventually a good coach doesn't need to be around anymore. You know, they coach themselves out of the job, because then you're like, oh, I've always had this. I always believed in myself, but I didn't know it was possible until we did whatever like method to pull this out. And I feel like that's a much more responsible way of coaching than someone that is like, you will always need me.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I always thought that the idea of being a coach is, you know, coaching them to a place where they are self-sustaining, if you will, and that, hey, you know, if you ever need me, check in. But you know, it's always, hey, I'm trying to build you up to a place where you are accountable to yourself. You know, that you're able to, you know, have the tools and the coach equip you to do the things. Because ultimately, it's just like, you know, in any sport, a coach prepares you for the game, on the court, on the field, because a coach is not out there during the game. You've got to do all that stuff. You know, you get all that stuff in practice so that when you go into the game, the coach is like, okay, remember what we said,
Right.
during the, so now it's game time, get out there. Now, there are some times in people's lives where they need some strategy when they're in the game. I think a coach comes in really handy there, when they're kind of in the midst of something. But I think that it's really important for people, to just really understand, like you said, where are you and where do you want to go? If people are coming at you desperate, then you need to make that decision. If you plateaued at some point, like, and Michael Jordan was like, hey, I'm already where I feel like I'm ascending, but I need to just do something else. Because Kobe was like that too.
Yeah.
Kobe was a big, hey, let's just take this to the next level, and let's be up at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and let's shoot around for 4 hours, and then let's go to practice.
Right.
So it's
and
like,
I think that's the part that's is really important as well. Is like coaches that I respect, especially business coaches, are ones that also challenge you of like, are you really ready to do this? Because I only want to coach you if you're ready. Because there's a lot of people that talk about
right.
being ready, but they're not there yet. Like, how committed are you to like, how committed are you to actually wanting to change? Do you really want to change, or you just want to talk about it? Because there's a lot of people that just want to complain and talk about it.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that I think a lot of people should know, particularly if they decide to go into this realm of being coached, is asking themselves, are they willing to listen to feedback? Because a lot of times, coaches will tell you stuff, and how you receive feedback is crucial. Like, how, if you're taking what they're saying personally, you've got to be able to move through that. Are you willing to hear the hard, are you willing to have the hard conversation about yourself or about this particular area or that particular area in your life? Do you feel that in your coaching, how have people responded? What are the various ways that people have responded to the feedback that you've given?
Well, I think the thing is I lay it out really early on of like, every meeting, it's going to be tough. Like, it's not going to be like all fun and games, even though I'm a play person, and
Right.
I utilize the tool of play to like play out a lot of scenarios so that, I'm all about people playing, in a safe space and then trying it out there. There's no growth if we're not going to be challenging each other.
That's true.
Like, it really doesn't, like, I was just speaking to someone today, and they were saying, when you have a dialogue with someone, you really have to be clear about, like, what is the goal? Is the goal to be right, or is the goal to make progress? Is the goal to, like,
that's good.
create results?
That's good.
Is the goal to, like, learn, like, what are we doing so that at the end of this call, we feel like we've both grown in some way, and not just kind of just BS'd each other? Because you see a lot of that, and it's just, you could get paid to do that, but that's just a waste of time for both people, right? And I want someone to come out of this and feel like challenged at the end of it and be like, well, because for you to grow and change, you have to be willing to let go of your old self. Like, you have to let go of that old story about yourself that has been limiting you. And that is tough. That is not easy.
It is.
That is some dark, connected to your childhood type mess, because there's like old stories that you're saying. Like, I have friends that are like, I can't make any money on my business. And it's like, you've always believed you can't make money on your business. Yeah. Because you also carry yourself in such a way where you don't think you believe you have that worth. But once you realize that you are worth it in the relationship realm, in the business realm, and all these, you're just going to start getting so much stuff, because all of a sudden you're now actually believing that you deserve it. But you have to go through that process. I can't take you there. I can kind of like show you the door, but you have to be the one to walk in. And a lot of people don't want to walk in. They kind of just want to like tiptoe around the outside and be like, oh, maybe at some point, because like, they've been telling the same story for so long. And it's really comfortable to tell that story, you know? It's much easier to binge watch Netflix than to like take a risk and, you know, speak in front of 100 people,
Right.
not knowing that, you know, whether you're a good speaker or not. You know, it's just like, it's much easier to make these decisions that make you feel kind of numb than take the roller coaster ride, which is going to give you a lot of highs, but it's also going to give you a ton of lows.
Yeah.
And people don't know if they want to handle the lows, right? Like, are you like, if I was asking someone if they're ready to be coached, it'd be like, are you willing to deal with the lows? Because if we're going to get to the highs, then you're going to also have to deal with a ton of lows.
You were talking about you know, that internal conversation that people have in their head about themselves. How do you get people to change that internal conversation?
So I have this, you know, amazing friend named Marsha Shandor, who did this talk at World Domination Summit, this awesome conference that I go to, where she would talk, she would interact with her inner critic. She called it her inner beast.
Wow.
And what I did is like, I was like, oh, I really love this concept of like identifying your inner critic and like actually like recognizing what your inner critic is saying. So I took that idea and then was like, well, let's play with your inner critic. So let's actually have you write out what your inner critic is saying to you. Like literally write it out. Then after I have them literally write it out, I have them actually describe to me what their inner critic looks like, what their inner critic sounds like, and then finally what they would call their inner critic. And then once we put a character on their inner critic or their inner beast, then I have them, and I challenge to do this, whether that's like texting me or emailing me, but they will write what their inner critic says to them throughout the day. And if and their critic is saying stuff all through the day, I'm like, email me all day or text me all day. Just like write to me all the bad thoughts that my inner critic's Gargamel. So he would always be like, you suck, you're full of BS. No one, you know, everyone knows you're such a fake, you know, you're never going to be successful. You're better at binge watching Netflix than getting any work done. Like I would say all the things. And what's interesting is once you write them out or you say them out loud, then you realize like how irrational that mind is.
Oh, wow.
And then you're like, that's not me. Like this laundry list of things that my Gargamel has just said to me are not me. And if you do that enough times, your mind quiets. That part of your mind quiets because you're giving attention. You're giving it the attention that it wants. The inner beast or inner critic wants your attention. So you give them full-fledged attention, and then you're like, well, let's see if you have anything of value to say. And you know what your inner beast or inner critic is doing is they're trying to warn you from like you getting hurt. But like you're like, but that's like that's your inner beast from when you were 7 or 13 or 18. And it's just like, you know, doesn't want you to get hurt at prom again. And you're like, I'm not going to prom anymore, dude. Or I'm not, you know, I'm not like, you know, I'm not playing in the playground with other kids that are bullying me. So I don't need to act that way anymore, you know? So we play games like that. And then once you do stuff like that and you're beginning, it's all about awareness, right? Then you begin to realize like, oh, this is bullshit. This part of me is spinning BS. And I need to spend more time listening to like my superhero or my coach or my biggest fan, which is me, and hear those things. Because if you think about it, I always ask people this, how much of your day are you listening to the mean voice in your head, and how much of the day are you listening to the positive voice in your head, you know?
Positive voice in your head, yeah. No, that's good, because it sounds like being able to make a character or put words to that dialogue makes it tangible, and you can kind of almost deconstruct, kind of break down that kind of mindset or well, even thinking, like being able to kind of articulate and make it tangible kind of makes people see like, oh, wow, like this is really interesting. So I feel like that's kind of a breakdown of people's mindset and thinking. So in that place where people are vulnerable, because like once you start breaking down that voice, once you start, you call George Gargamel, once you expose Gargamel, how do you start giving people constructive criticism? Because I feel like, one of the things that you need to do, if you're going to take one message away, you got to replace it with another one. And
Right.
That's where, the construction of kind of building a new mindset happens.
Well, it's funny. It's funny, the part
do
where
you
I
feel like people would be able to do that?
Well, the part where you say like when do you give constructive criticism? A lot of times I don't. Like,
Really?
yeah, because what's interesting, or at least the way in which I was trained in coaching, is they have all the answers. You just ask the questions. Like if you ask the right question,
That's so
they
good.
discover
Oh, wow.
the answer. It's not you. Like I once was coaching somebody that was trying to have a baby. Never had a baby. I don't know how to have a baby. Like I can't coach her on that.
Yeah,
But I
that's
can
true.
ask her the right questions as to like what is it that she is exploring, and why is it that what is it that she wants to get by having this baby, or what are the needs that she's trying to explore. So like I'm all about helping them pull out the answers that they already know, but they're deep down. Like one thing I learned in my training, my positive psychology training, was like you have those icebergs, right? And you only see the top of the iceberg, but but underneath the water is everything, is 90% of the issues. So those you can't get to by you giving them advice. And the thing is a lot of times when people give advice, and this is just my take on advice, I think most people should just be quiet and not give advice, like, including me. Like, because I don't know your world. I don't understand you enough to give you advice. And even if I did, even if we both had kids and they were the same age, and then they were, the same gender, and they were dealing with the same bullying issues, still that might not be right, because I still don't know your background.
Okay,
I would more so asking the questions of because usually when they bring up a topic, the topic that they bring up is not actually the topic they want to talk about. Someone might be like, I want to make a lot of money. Why do you want to make a lot of money? Because people that make a lot of money are valued. Well, why are you don't feel valued? What would make you feel valued? Well, making money. Well, what else would make you feel valued? Well, feeling love. Well, let's talk about, you just get into these deeper and deeper conversations, and then you realize later on, it's like, it was never about the money. And imagine you just saved this person 5-10 years of their life, because now they're not chasing money. They now have a better understanding of what they need to do in order to feel valued in their life. So that's what I try to do as much as possible, is ask the right questions and play with those questions so that they start to hear their inner child who has the answers and is like, I've been trying to tell you this for years, but you haven't been listening to me,
So would you consider asking questions like pruning? It's like pruning a vine, or like pruning a plant to make space for more growth, to kind of cut away the dead branches, so that there's just more life going to those plants that are, those leaves that are still on the vine, that fruit that is still on the vine. It's more pruning than it is building up.
Right. But I sort of, because using that analogy, they would guide the conversation, not me.
Okay.
Because that's crucial. They need to be the ones that are guiding it, because they are the ones that know it better than me. And if I'm guiding it, I'm going to take them to a place that they may not want to go. And if you ever think of like the advice that you've given to people in the past, and you're like, how come you didn't take my advice? It's like, because that advice didn't resonate.
It wasn't for me. It didn't resonate with me.
It wasn't for them.
Yeah.
It was for you. Anytime we want to give advice, when we're so interested in giving advice and we're like, someone needs to hear this right now, that advice is not for that person. It's for you. And you need to like check yourself for a moment and be like, why do I so badly want to give advice to this other person? You know?
Okay.
And then the other part that I also challenge people is like, people want to change when they're ready to change, not when you're ready to change. So like,
When they're ready
I think a lot of times people are like, well, I want to change this person. And it's like, oh, wait, hold on. You want to change this person. First off, how hard is it for you to change? Oh, well, it's very difficult for me to change. Okay, so then now let me get this straight. You want to change this person on a part-time basis? You're going to part-time change this person? Like an hour a week? Like, what do you think? Like, and it's going to work? You can't even change yourself.
Right.
You can't even like
change yourself. Yeah.
What are you trying to do? What are you trying to do right now? So you have to like meet people where they're at, and then when they're ready to be coached is when they're ready to change.
Do you feel like people who kind of enter coaching in that moment in their lives, do you feel like just because they came to you they're ready, or are they like, well, I'm doing this, but I don't know if I'm ready? Like, do you have to, or is it just more like pulling them up, or you have to push them?
I think it's all over the place. Some believe they're ready and they're not ready. Others believe they're not ready and they are ready. Like, it's all over the place. You know, some are like you just don't know until you're like a session or a few sessions in. Sometimes you can actually ask them and really get to the root of it at the beginning and realize like maybe you're just not like fully committed right now to dive into this. But yeah, you don't really know. They don't really know a lot of times. I mean, there's a lot of times when someone comes up to you and they're like, I don't know what I'm trying to solve, but I know I'm trying to solve something. Okay, well, let's explore. I'm all about experimenting, and let's figure out where we're gonna go. You know,
are people? Do you find that the people who are willing to explore kind of get through coaching a little easier than people who are not willing to explore?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, remember, I do like positive psychology and play. So I'm all about experimenting, taking risks, doing a lot of ridiculous stuff. So if you're not even in that space, then you're not the right fit for me anyway, right? Because like I'm doing it which is fine, because I'm not trying to get everyone to be coached by me. It's just like, I might resonate with you, I might not. And if you're not willing to play, then probably I'm not the right fit for you, you know?
That's a really, really good point. Particularly people who are looking, if they make a decision to be coached, how can people kind of assess who is the right coach for them? Because it's so kind of individually driven, if you will.
Yeah.
How do people recognize kind of the puzzle piece to them and the puzzle piece to the right coach for them?
I think they need to look at what that coach has produced and see if that resonates with them. Whether that's their blog, whether that's video, whether that's their other clients that they've worked with, or other people, maybe they've worked with some of their friends, and do a lot of that assessment up front, like learn as much about that person up front, and then in that intro call, just see if you resonate with them or not. And if it's not a hell yes, like if it's not like, oh, this is definitely going to work, then I say it's not the right fit.
So even before inviting coaching into your life, you need to do some research on who you feel fits you. So you're saying whatever resonates with me when I'm doing all this research, that's the person I want to be with.
Yeah, well, I think you first need to identify, why do you want to be coached? Like, what do you hope to gain from it? You know, is that, you know, if you think this coach is the reason why, you know, you don't have as many clients, or the reason why you're not in a relationship, and then this person is going to give you all the answers, that's probably not going to be the case, because you have to do half the work, if not 75% of the work.
Right.
So like, if you want to like a new relationship, but you're not willing to change, you know, or become more mature in it, it doesn't really matter who the coach is. If you're not willing to like understand, why do I need a coach in the first? So I would start with that. Why do I need a coach in the first place? What do I hope to gain from this coach? Then it's like, okay, what are my values, and what type of coach would align with that? And then from there, start searching. Because then you already have a criteria, and then you can put on social media, I'm looking for someone that has these attributes because I'm trying to do this. And then you're going to get a lot of people that will send you stuff back. And then you just do research on all these people and see what they've produced. You know, I have a friend named Stephen Worley who runs a 30-day business accelerator, and he produces podcasts and blogs all the time. And he says people take a year of learning about me before they work with me.
Wow.
A whole year of reading my stuff before they even consider starting to work with me. That makes sense, right? Like, they know for a fact that his values and their values align, and they're like, okay, I need to work with this. No.
What do you, for people who are trying to decide about coaching, what's the difference that you've learned between coaching and therapy?
I think there's a
or is there like a crossroads between the two?
No, I don't think there's a crossroads. It's a clear delineation, because you have to be very careful that you are not doing therapy as a coach. That you are not.
Oh, wow.
Like,
nice. Okay.
Like my friend Nancy is a therapist, and she is very clear when she's coaching and when she's doing therapy. And when in the positive psychology world, what they talk a lot about is you are asking a lot of forward-thinking questions. So you're asking about the future, not asking about the past. Your job is to not solve like people's issues of their childhood. That's what a therapist would do. You know, you're not trying to like address, you know, things that that like a trained therapist would address. Like, if we're clearly told as coaches, you know, during our training, if you feel like someone is venturing into, you know, a dark or depression type state, that's not for you to solve. You are not trained in that. You're trained in being able to ask them forward-thinking questions and get them to focus on what is like in front of them, you know, and what they can do in the future, but not be like spending so much time dwelling in the past. Because
that is interesting.
A lot more into therapy.
Wow.
So I'm very clear about that. And then if I found myself getting into that, then I would recommend a therapist, because I'd be like, I'm not trained to help you in this way.
Wow. That is okay. Well, that's probably one of the questions that people have to ask in the beginning. Do I need therapy, or do I need coaching?
Or do I need a coach? You know, like, a coach is someone, again, that is going to help you guide you through a new world, whether that's business or relationship or something like that. But they are not going to solve, like, you know, trauma issues from the past. Like, those,
nice.
they might skirt, they might hit the
right. Yeah.
those.
Yeah.
But they're not trained in that. It's almost as my friend Nancy would say, it's dangerous for a coach to do that, because that's not they're not trained for that. Tool for that, you know, like, so you just have to be very aware that, you know, at the same time that yes, you're dealing with some emotions, that you are not venturing into a realm that is not in your comfort zone.
That's really, really good. So therapy is, you know, kind of looking back, kind of drive. So you're driving, looking in the rear view, but coaching is always hands-on 10 and 2, looking forward, you know, looking to the future of your life. That's a really good delineation between the two, because I know a lot of people get confused about, you know, what coaching is and what therapy is.
Right.
So if coaching is about moving forward, how do you get people to look at their performance moving forward, and how do you get them to improve, whatever they're looking to make changes in? So, for example, you said that you set goals, right, for
Right.
people that you're coaching. Do you, set, those, are there benchmarks that people have to accomplish, or is it just, hey, when you start seeing that change, hey, that's when you've, made that change to go forward and do whatever
I think
they're asking you to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it depends on the client, right? Because some
Mhm.
clients like really resonate with goals and like lists and crossing stuff out, and others are more about like learning good habits. One thing that a really good client of
Oh,
mine did was like, let's focus on habits. Let's not even focus on like goals. Let's just create good habits. And then those good habits will create will create everything else that you're trying to achieve.
right. I got you.
So, but it
Yeah.
really depends on the person and how. So it's a lot of times it's like, well, what is it that, in my initial sessions with people, it's what is it that you're trying to accomplish? How best do you work? Like what are the ways in which you get motivated? What are your triggers that cause you to feel, not as productive? Let's dive into all of those, and then that will kind of shape how we do goal setting, and how do we do accountability. Some people need to be accountable every day. Others need to drive the accountability themselves, where they'll text you when they get stuff done. Others need a cheerleader the entire time, and they don't really need someone to be like cracking the whip. They just want someone that believes in them. So that really depends on the client, right? And who, what is it that they need? As everyone needs something different at different times.
Oh, that makes sense. So that goes into my next question about strategy and how you make strategies for different people. Is that very similar to how you set, that you and the client set those goals together? You set strategies together?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
do you allow them to, because we said this is very much driven by the client. Do you let them make strategies and then you kind of, like we said, prune, or make suggestions, or do you do it all? Like as a coach,
yeah, no,
they're like, oh, you do it all. You set all the strategies.
Yeah, no, we do it together. It's definitely collaborative, but they again are guiding the process because they are the ones that understand themselves the most, right? So I ask the questions to clearly delineate what the strategy is going to be, and then I hold them accountable to what they agreed to do. So like that's the part where it's just like, well, you said you wanted to produce 3 blogs in the next week.
Got it.
Where are we at on that? Oh, well, I only got 1 done so far. Okay, well, we're already 3 days in. What do you need in order for, to get the other ones done?
Okay, I see.
And then and then again, we dive into what has gotten in their way in the past. What's getting in your way right now? Okay, let's figure out what that is. Okay, let's come up with a strategy for every time something gets in your way. I remember there was someone that I worked with that had a hard time making decisions. So then we went through that person's decision-making process and identifying if I will only take clients if they meet this criteria, because they were just accepting everybody. And it was like, well, clearly you're not getting paid enough because you're just accepting everybody, and you're not valuing your worth. So let's identify what is the criteria. So, and this criteria I didn't come up with, they came up with it. I just came up with the framework. And then that person always had that framework to go back to.
Okay.
When they were making their decisions. So then I didn't need to be there for them to make those decisions because the framework already existed.
Right, exactly. Okay, that was going to be my next question, about planning that strategy with them, how much of that strategy is coach driven, and how much of that strategy, no.
Wait, how much of the strategy is coach driven and how much of the strategy is driven by the client?
Right.
I feel like it's like 60-40 or 70-30 them. It's usually them, with me just kind of helping to guide the process, right?
So basically you're just there to support. So like you guys come up with the strategy and then you just support them applying these strategies to their life.
Yeah. And the thing is at the end of the day, the reason why they're also guiding it is because eventually they got to do it on their own.
Yes.
You know, I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be there at the end.
Well,
if I've done a good job, they don't need me anymore. Like,
oh, that's good.
That's a good coach. That's a good leader. When you're like, I'm going to organize myself out of the job. Because why are they coming to you in the first place? If they're dependent on you, like 3 years in and they still continue to go to you and they haven't made much growth, but you've made a lot of money off them, that's just messed up, man. That's not right. That's not cool at all. So it's like, nah, man, like I'm trying to get them to a place where they feel so empowered that they are willing to be like, Def, I think it's time. And it's like, awesome. Sweet.
So let's kind of explore that on that journey a little bit. Let's explore that one client who's just been there a year, 2 years, and there isn't any improvement. How do you, as the coach, kind of make that decision, you know, to either take them out of the game or just like, hey, I'm sorry, I got to cut you from the team. Do you know what I mean?
I was actually talking to a coach friend of mine about this. This is really interesting because she was challenged with someone that just wasn't making progress. And you just have to have an honest conversation with the person and just be like, look, it's been 3 months. You said you wanted to do these things. We haven't done these things. I need to know if you're committed to doing these things. And if not, then maybe I'm not the right person for you.
That's an interesting approach.
Yeah, because it's not responsible for me to continue to work with this person and take money from them when I am not making inroads and helping them in their life. They might just like me because, you know, I give them good company, but like, you're not paying me for that. Like,
okay.
I mean, you might want to, but then that was the objective you should have said at the beginning. Like, I just want to hang out. Okay, well then, because then I can decide whether that's a smart decision for my time as well, because I'm giving up my time.
Right.
So I think it's for both of us. It's just like, how much time are we giving to this relationship, you know, and you know, are we both fulfilling our word that we promised to each other?
That's true. That's good. So let's go the other end of the spectrum. The person is improving, growing, progressing. You're, as the coach, you see it happening. Hey, I think that they're about to make this, you know, huge leap into going into their lives without me. And they're like, oh no, I need you here. How do you make that break? Because like when someone's not improving, it's kind of like, okay, I don't see any improvement in here. I don't see any growth. Hey, we're done. How do you convince them, hey, you got this, you know, and break that relationship?
The same idea of the training wheels, right, on a bike, where you're like, you have to take them off. So some of the challenges that we would do would be like, all right, now it's on you. So like, we're going to check in less, you know, I was keeping you accountable every week. Now I'm going to keep you accountable every 2 weeks or in a month. I want to see what you accomplish in a month, but it's on you, you know, and you kind of like, they're almost weaning themselves off.
Right.
Off of that.
Right. That makes sense.
Or you were just like, let's just, you know, I think you're ready. I don't know if I'm ready. Well, how are you going to know if you're ready or not if we don't try it, right? So it's
Okay.
you know, if someone is really feeling empowered and making progress, they'll know. They'll actually tell you before you even tell them. You know, because they'll be like, "Oh man, I'm feeling good." You know, we've seen that when we used to teach, right? And you would see like a student, and all of a sudden they got it. And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
They did not. They couldn't do anything, and all of a sudden they are crushing it. So
Yeah.
it just organically happens, and you just have to be aware enough to admit when the time is up.
That makes sense. I know that for a lot of people, when they're setting these goals, knowing when time is up, when you're setting goals, is there an outcome that they're looking for to say, hey, hey, when we set goals, we said we wanted you to do this, this, and this. When you were time to go, you've done that. Or is it just kind of just, those structured goals that you get in the beginning, they kind of change as they kind of grow and progress and evolve, and and like what they're looking for or their outcome always changes as they evolve. How does that play out for the client?
Yeah, they absolutely change because.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because it's the iceberg effect, right? Whatever you started digging at the beginning is not what you're working on in the end.
Right.
And at the end of the day, what people really want is they really just want to know their worth. They want to know who they are. They want to believe that they can accomplish what they didn't think was possible before. And the goals that we set are just simply examples that give them confidence that they can do it.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like you said, the training wheels.
Like the goals are arbitrary. You could set a goal of, I don't know, running a marathon or running a half marathon or running 3 miles. They're all different distances, but you could get the same outcome from any of them in the sense of like, wow, I didn't think I could actually run that far. I can run that.
Right.
Oh my goodness. I didn't think I could actually outreach, and get clients to pay me. Oh, I can do that. I didn't think I could speak in front of thousands of people. Oh, I can do that. Like they're all the same. You're all heading towards the same path. You're just taking different doors to get there, No,
that makes sense. In entering into coaching, this is kind of a personal question. What did you observe about people that you felt like, hey, what I have, I can contribute to people I can contribute to people in being a coach? What did you observe about, just people around you that was like, because we're talking about not changing them, we're talking about help them progress from one place to another. So what did you feel as a person that was like, hey, if I could become a coach, I can help people move forward?
Yeah, I recently did this standout assessment from this guy named Marcus Buckingham, this phenomenal speaker that speaks a lot about strengths and focusing on your strengths. And one of my, I think one of my attributes was like someone that can see the value in people in such a way and cheers them on and basically reflects back to them what potential they have.
Nice.
So like that's one of my strengths. That's actually one of the things I love to do, where like I see someone and I'm like, oh, you're so awesome. And let me explain all the ways in which you're awesome that you might not even have noticed. So like that's what I'm able to do. But I think,
right.
But again, I think that you have to first, as a coach, you have to check yourself and be very like careful that you're not making it about you. You're utilizing your strengths, but at the end of the day, your job is to highlight their strengths. Your job is to simply create a safe space for them to realize their own answers. And that might use your strength, that might not. Like it might, you're just gonna have to kind of play with it. And I think a lot of time, like anyone can call themselves a coach, right?
Yeah.
And then just start giving advice to everybody. But I think that I don't know if it's so much can be dangerous, but it's just, if it's not catered to the person, it can be irresponsible. Because what you're saying to that person is, you got to do my program, and if you do my program, then you're going to be successful. Like
my program.
Like information, like those infomercial ones where they're and if you use the Thigh Master will change your life. And it's like, just calm down, all right? Calm down with the solution. It's not going to solve everyone's problems. Bikram yoga is not going to solve everyone's problems, but whatever it is that you're pitching, right? Like you gotta be aware of that, of people that are trying to give you this like, turnkey solution, and instead be like, what is it that you want to work on? What is it that you want to accomplish? And how can I help you? And maybe my strengths will help you, or maybe they won't. And
that's good.
Our job in our first few sessions is to figure out if this is the right fit or not. That's it. Because it's a dance, where both people are part of it. You can't do it without each other. Yeah.
Have you, before you, well, no, let me go back. How do you set that line between being someone's coach and kind of being that person's kind of, fuel for their emotions or their feelings? We talked about.
How do you
either be friend or their personal confidant, their therapist. Like, how do you set those boundaries and lines with people? Because we were talking about, because I thought first, coaching and therapy, they're kind of the same. But if there's a strong delineation, there are probably people who don't know that they're very different. So how do you establish that line, as you're going through this personal journey with people on helping them improve their lives?
Well, first, I don't coach my friends. I'm very aware. If I am going to coach a friend, I will be like, hey, do you want to do a coaching session? Or do you, because when I am someone's friend, I am giving them my take on stuff. I am giving them my opinion, I'm sharing a lot. Like, this is me as your friend speaking,
Yeah.
So, and then I think you delineate with the coaching sessions because you have only a certain period of time. You're trying to accomplish it in that certain period of time. And then if they are like, trying to talk to you, and as a friend, they're like, well, what kind of advice would you give me on this? And I'm like, this sounds like, I would stop it there and be like, this sounds like something that you would probably ask one of your friends. Not,
okay.
Because again, it always goes back to the goals at the beginning. What are the goals? What are the objectives? So if someone is trying, like, I'm trying to build my business, or, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do next in my life. And then in the middle of it, they're like, who should I date? Should I date this guy or this guy? Like, that is not part of the objectives or the goals that we talked about. Not relevant to that. That is something you probably should talk to, your best friends about.
Your best friend about.
Like, if you want to, if you want to explore that, we can, but that's probably not, like, is that what you want to utilize your time for? Because
I see. So in the time that you have with them, you keep it right here. Like,
you keep going back to the original why. Why are we having this conversation? You keep bringing it back. You keep asking questions around that why. Because if you're not, then you go off the path, and then you don't get back to where they were going to be, right? Like, and at the end of most of my coaching sessions, I'm like, okay, so we originally agreed on this goal. Have we made what type of progress do you think we've made on this goal?
Okay.
Are you, do you feel complete, or do you feel satisfied with where we're at in comparison to where you felt at the beginning of this call? Those are the questions that I'm asking, so that they themselves see progress just in the session alone,
How, in talking about, keeping the integrity of the relationship, how have people responded? No, let me say this. Those people who have not responded positively to the feedback, the pruning, who have not responded, and their response is in a negative manner. How do you manage, that, hey, I'm your coach, you asked me to help you with this, and they're not responding in a positive manner. Not that they're not growing or anything, but they're just like, hey man, how dare you? And there's offense. They've taken offense to of what you shared with them. How do you manage those situations?
Well, that's the interesting part. When you're asking questions, you are not offending people.
Oh, okay.
When you are asking most questions, and they're good questions, ones that are exploring and expansive, not yes and no questions, but questions.
I got you.
Then people only get frustrated and insulted when they feel like you're not hearing them, right?
Oh.
When you're not seeing them, when they feel like they're not expressing themselves. So usually people get offended when you start giving them advice that's not relevant to them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Why do you think people hate going to Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner? Is because they hate hearing the advice that they're being given that they've never asked for. They never asked for this advice, and someone's just like, you should maybe lose some weight, or maybe you should get married by now. Like, why are you giving me advice? And usually the person that's giving advice is the last person that should be giving advice. They're like, maybe you should get married. And you're like, you're in a loveless marriage. Why would you be giving me advice on getting married? Or you're telling me I need to lose weight. What are you talking about? Your diet includes McDonald's every day. Like, what are you saying to me? See, so people get offended when you are telling them something that is not relevant to them, and you are not seeing them for who they are.
That makes sense.
When you see them for who they are, and you are really trying to help, a majority of the time, they'll show you the same level of respect. And again, if you're not trying to be right, I was just having this conversation earlier on a book club talk, when you are willing to I'm not trying to be right here. Like, you even say that. But what I feel is coming up is this, and I reflect back on what I'm hearing from them. Like, what I'm hearing is this.
Right.
You say that you want to, take risks, that you want to jump out of the industry that you're currently working in and take a brand new job in a brand new industry. What I'm hearing you say these things, but then what you say next is that you're scared of doing it. Is that correct? I just want to, I confirm with them what they're communicating to me is actually correct, because I really am trying to understand where they're coming from. And one thing that's actually really important that I find, especially when you're coaching, is being able to recognize the duality that two opposite emotions can exist at the same time. because, or
Okay.
opposite ideas can exist at the same time. Because I think a lot of times people feel like it's very black and white. You know, like if I'm taking risks, then I'm courageous and I don't have fear. When actually, when you are courageous, you are definitely carrying fear at the same time. That's what is also making you courageous. You're willing to take the risk and you're also scared while you're doing it, you know, and recognizing those dualities, you know, and those a variety of emotions can exist at a given time is really important. Because that is the part that people are struggling with, because they're like, well, should I be feeling this or should I be feeling that?
Yeah.
And it's like, stop shoulding on yourself for a second, right? You know, because like should sits on your shoulders, like just take the shoulds off your shoulders for a second.
Nice.
And just like, what do you want? Not what you should do or what you have to do, but what do you want to do?
That's true. That makes sense.
I think a lot of times people do not really explore that question of like, what do I really want?
Is that question part of the initial assessment, if you will, of you starting this coaching relationship with them?
Yeah, it's at every it's every meeting. It's sometimes not in every choice, but in many of the choices. Because once you figure out what you want, it's very clear then about what are the next steps. You know, and it's interesting. Yeah. I was on a call of someone that was teaching us about decluttering. They were like decluttering your life, decluttering the stuff in your house, decluttering your computer. And she's like, you know what you need? What people, you know what she's like, I suggest people do is you hold on to what you love and what you need. Anything that you like, you get rid of, because like shows indecision. We like a lot of things, you know, but if you have any clutter in your house, it's because you're indecisive about it. You can't decide whether you want to get rid of it or not. It's like you kind of like it, and you kind of, you know.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
Really,
you're different about it.
Clear about what you want, you will just pursue what you love and what you need.
Yes.
You're very clear about it.
Yeah.
Like you did that with your relationship. When you fell in love with a person, you were like, that is the person I love. That is the person that I need in my life. And I know exactly what I need to do in order to be with this person. Even though you didn't, you were like very clear about what you were going to at least try to do, you know? And that's what we're trying to get away from or we're trying to get away from like the likes and the numbness and get to the stuff that we love, you know?
No, that's interesting because like I was just thinking, you know, the difference between like and love. You know, on Facebook, you like things, but then on Instagram, there's that little heart there. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, they're and you know, conceptually they're the same thing, but knowing the difference between liking something and loving something, that's different. And you know, it's just like, well, I like you and I love you are two very different places.
And it's what is it? It's a different level of commitment.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay.
That's what it is, right? So if you're talking about goals, do you love the goal that we just came up with?
Or do you like it?
That's good. If they love it and they're excited about it and you see the energy behind it, then you're like, all right, let's go. But if they're like, you know, you can like see it from their body language. They're saying what you want to hear, but you don't feel it. Then you're like, well, you know, let's backtrack on this. Let me challenge you on what we just agreed with. Is this really right? You know,
right?
Is this really what you want? And it's amazing the amount of times that people really don't have a clue about what they want. And then when they finally realize it, it's drastically different from what they expected it to be.
Oh, that's good. So let me ask you this. Let's just say someone goes, you meet them, they go through, you know, the coaching journey with you. They're done. Have you met anyone who has had some regression?
Oh yeah, everyone does.
Falling back into whatever. Oh, everyone. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not what I was expecting.
Well, it's the roller coaster, right? Like you always regress, go back 2 steps, move forward 4 steps, go back 3 steps, move forward 1 step. Like it's this. It's always been this, and it's more the it's more the idea of, do you have faith that when you're in the cavern, you're gonna get out of it, right? And what I'm trying to do is help you believe that you'll always be able to get out of it. That you're, I'm trying to help them believe that they have everything that they need,
right,
to weather the hardest storm.
Right.
Because everyone's going to regress, everyone's going to make mistakes, everyone's going to fail. And I think the thing that people like is really tough on them, and I've even done this myself in my life, is like, you fail, like I stopped working out one day. Oh, okay, well then forget working out altogether. Now it's just like, it's just a waste because I messed up on this one day. And they just completely give up.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, don't give up on it. You did like 5 days in a row, and then you made one, and then you didn't do one day. That's okay. Like it's having like compassion for yourself, believing that you have the confidence to achieve the goals that you really want to achieve, and that you have the tools to always fall back on, and the foundation to always fall back on if it ever gets really tough.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Because like Gargamel, your inner critic is going to show back up. And what are you going to do when it shows back up? Are you going to get angry at yourself, or are you going to do the methods that we have done before to address it, right? So
that makes sense.
There'll be a lot of frameworks that you now have that you can go to. And sometimes you'll forget about those frameworks, and then we connect, and I'm like, are you utilizing this? And they're like, no. And it's just like, you know what you can do. And you're like, I know what I can do. And it's like, oh, well, then do it. You know what to do. You don't need me to do it. You got this.
So basically in the coaching journey, you're learning kind of best practices for how you engage what you call the roller coaster and our moments of regression.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
And my job is to not only help you navigate that roller coaster and really appreciate the highs and really, even appreciate the lows, because you have to do that in order to appreciate both, right? But also to enjoy the ride. Like that's the biggest part. Enjoy the process.
I'm still working on that.
As your kids are talking and they're like, yeah, I know, I'm enjoying the process with my kids right now. No, but like seriously, they've been in quarantine with them forever. But it's like, no, like, are you enjoying a majority of this experience, or are you not? Are you not? Like, because if you're not having fun during this ride called life, what are we doing? Like, what are we? I know. If you think about it, being in America and, having jobs, we're in a much more privileged situation than a majority of the world.
Yeah.
We even have the luxury to even ask ourselves the question, what do I want to do today? Or what do I want to do with my life? A lot of people don't even have that. They're just trying to survive and feed their family, right? Like so being that we're in such a lucky position, we should really take, we really should not take it for granted. We really should be grateful about it. And one thing that I always talk about, do you know Good Will Hunting?
Yeah.
Do you know it really well? Do you remember the ending?
When after he told him it wasn't his fault?
No. So there's a part that I always utilize in my talks. And it's when Matt Damon's character is at a construction site with Ben Affleck's character. Mm-hmm. And Matt Damon's like, saying to him, he goes, he's a genius, right? And they're talking about stuff, and he goes, yeah, so, I'm gonna be doing construction for the rest of my life and hanging out with you and taking our kids to Foley Field, right?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
And then Ben Affleck's like, let me not, I don't want to say anything too wrong, but if you're here in 20 years, I'm going to kill you.
Yeah. I do remember that. Yeah.
And
He says that. Yeah.
He goes, you have what so many of us wish we had. And he's like, why does everyone say that to me? Oh my gosh, everyone says that to me, that I owe it to myself. And he's like, no, you don't owe it to yourself. You don't owe it to you. You owe it to me.
Yeah, you owe it to me.
And every one of these other guys, because we would give anything to be in your position. We would give anything, to have that lottery ticket. And you're sitting on that lottery ticket and you're too scared to cash it in, right? Yeah. And that is what I say to a lot of people when I talk about their their talents and their superpowers. And I mean, I refer to them as superpowers. I'm like, they're like skills. Like, there is a reason you're here on this earth and you need to do this thing. And in order to once you do this thing, you might free someone else up. Like, if you are willing to take a risk and speak about something that you're very scared to speak on, you then are giving bravery to somebody else that eventually sees you to then take a risk in their life. So they're waiting on you to show up. But as long as you are sitting, playing small, they can't go there. So that is the contribution that you're giving to the world before you finally, before your life finally ends. So what are you doing? What is the lottery ticket that you're sitting on? And when do you want to cash it in? And when you want to cash it in, then talk to me. Then let's go. Then let's start doing some stuff. Then let's start
how do you have that conversation with someone, that, your superpowers are for quote unquote the greater good? Like, how do you, because you're not trying to convince them, you're just trying to shed light on the idea, because you said you're not trying to be right, you're just trying to show them, what's that conversation like? Because I know that there are a lot of people who are probably going to be watching this and they're going to be like, yeah, I really probably do need to share my gift with the world.
Yeah, I mean, I just reflect back what they're giving me, right? Like let's do you, for example, right, Errol?
Okay, all right. I'm in on this.
You have this energetic, powerful energy that just brings excitement to rooms, right? You even said it. You are like a hype man for your church and for your community. Like, not a lot of people can do that. Not a lot of people have the bravery to do that. Not a lot of people have the gall, just the sheer gall to do it, and then the confidence,
the unmitigated gall.
Yeah, just like when you show up for a room, you just bring it, which then causes other people to be like, wow, if he's willing to be that ridiculous and crazy and awesome, then I'm going to be more excited. I'm going to raise my energy up. I simply am just going to reflect that back to you and be like, what do you want to do with that gift? How do you want to utilize that gift, man? Yeah. You inspire so many people. How do you want to utilize that gift? Do you want to watch Netflix? Probably not. As soon as I ask you that question, what would be your answer? How do you want to utilize that gift, Errol?
I know, I feed off of using that gift. It really kind of feeds me personally. Because I'm high energy. I'm trying to be fun loving and exciting and kind of like you in what you're trying to do in coaching, see the value in someone and kind of reflect that and give them reason as to why that thing in them is so great. It's exciting. It is life bringing. It is life giving.
Yep.
And so for me, I learned early on, it's like, I cannot sit on this lottery ticket. Right. Because it's tied to tied to my life source, my ability to function. You know, I can't walk in a room and just sit on my hands. I've tried to do that. It's horrible. I get antsy and then all of a sudden, oh, this light slipped out. Sorry. But you know, it's hard for me to sit on. It's hard for me to sit on it. And I learned early on, it was like, okay, if I have to do this, there was a lot of pruning, you know, that I had to do, you know, not caring about what other people thought. I still kind of struggle with that. Learning how to be okay with not everybody liking me or gravitating to me in the room, but focus on those who do gravitate to me in the room and enjoy them. So there was a lot of, like you said, those roller coasters, those ups and downs of dealing with, man, I can't sit on this lottery ticket, but if I sit on this thing, it's probably gonna kill me.
Yeah. So to answer your question of like, I mean, just look at you. Your energy level is higher. You know, you're like, I can feel the excitement emanating off of you. Like, right at that point, I don't need to persuade you.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying.
You just persuaded yourself of what, you know. So, and that's what usually happens anyway during a coaching session. As soon as you're asking someone, they start pulling stuff out and they're like, I never thought about that. Or that's a good question. Whenever someone says that's a good question, it is a good question because now it's a question they have not thought of. And now they have to dig deeper, you know?
Oh, I see.
They have to explore something that they haven't asked themselves in a really long time. And they're like, I got to think about that, you know?
That does make sense.
And then you just sit there and you wait for as long as possible in that awkward silence until they have it. And usually it comes out in a way that you never thought, you know, it was going to come out. So, yeah.
Makes sense. Closing thoughts. We've answered all my questions.
All right.
But any closing thoughts for people who are looking for coaching, assessing, you know, hey, should I get one? Should I not get one? Who should I get? You know, final thoughts.
I think you don't make it overcomplicated. I think you should, or not should, you want, like find the desire first to understand why it is that you want to coach. So once you identify why you want to coach, then start to figure out what it is that you need or you believe you need from a coach. And then put it out to your network of like, this is the type of person that I'm looking for. And then as you start to see people suggested to you, or you start to do some research, then really like dig deep into what it is that they've already created and see if that resonates with you. Because if it resonates with you, then you kind of like have solved, you know, you've solved most of the answers. And then you don't have to think of like, oh, how much I'm going to pay that person, I'm going to do this. Like don't do all that. You don't have to do all that.
No, that makes sense. Man, Jeff, this was good, man. This was good. I enjoyed this. This was amazing. This was awesome. What do we do here? Oh, we give your where can they find you, Jeff? Where can they find you on the interwebs? You know, Al Goals Internet. Where can they find you?
Yeah, so I create a lot of my videos and post them on Instagram at Jeff Harry Plays, JeffHarry, and then PLAYS. And if you want to go to my website, it's rediscoveryourplay.com. Yeah, man.
Are you currently accepting clients, Jeff?
I mean, I'm always willing to talk with people and see if we connect.
See if it's a fit. Yeah.
It's all about fit. It's all about fit with me. Hey, man, this is super fun. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, man, anytime. If anyone wants to check out the blog, It's wearekingdomstrong.wordpress.com. You can find me on Twitter at @TheKingdomStrong, and you can find me on the gram. We out here at We Are Kingdom Strong. Best bet. We out. Deuces.
Thanks, Errol. This was awesome.